The College Board gives us these three images that we need to be able to recognize as all being part of Petra, which is in Jordan. So this is image number 181. And the most important image is on the left, and this is the Treasury. That's why it says Treasury. And Great Temple is the remains down below on the right. I don't really have any information on the Great Temple. It just looks like remains that were built out of sandstone. We're going to be focusing on the Treasury, which is on the top left. There's three cultures being represented here: Nabatean, Ptolemaic, and Roman. Time period is 400 before Common Era to 100 Common Era. And this is cut rock or sandstone. All right, I know we've talked about the Silk Road before, so if you don't have this in your notes, go ahead and include it. It's also known as the Silk Route. It's an ancient trade route that links China with the West. And we know it's really important because not only goods were exchanged, but ideas and religion. Ideas and religion were exchanged between Rome and China. Oh yeah, and then right in the middle are the Bamiyan Buddhas, which we've talked about already. And we're going to be focusing over here on the left in the Middle East in Jordan is where Petra is. So I'm kind of zooming in here on the map. So when you click on the map of Petra, it tells you what it is. So I would write this in your notes. It is an ancient rock-cut city in a deep valley. They became really wealthy. They had, during their peak time as being a civilization, they had about 30,000 people living in Petra. It became a major part of the spice trade between Arabia, which is here, in Syria, right there. So along the way would be Petra. And then I should say Nabateans, not Nanataeans, was formerly a nomadic Arab tribe to those people were. All right, zoom in a little bit. All right, so we're going to be focusing on the Treasury. So as you go to the Treasury, you're actually walking through, here's your path. You're walking through this cliff, so there's cliff sides on either side of you as you get to the Treasury. So this is your view as you come out into the opening. And if you've ever seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, this is where they go to find the Holy Grail. And it's the scene where they walk through the cliff and then you can see it, and it's pretty amazing. But they actually filmed it in Petra. All right, go ahead and write down this question in your notes. How does Petra show continuity? So continuity is where a tradition has similar traits, right? Something is being continued through time. And how is it showing change? Through interactions with other cultures. So we need to be able to look at something like this and talk about similarities that we have seen in other artworks. Oh, there you go, obelisks, I have it up there. All right, so some things we're going to talk about. This is overall a 2-story facade. So a facade is like the front entrance, right? We don't even see the back part of this because it's a cliff. So this is carved right into the cliff wall, and it is a 2-story facade. So go ahead and label on your notes. Then we have a broken pediment. So a pediment is this triangular part. We have a whole pediment here. Right? We saw pediments at the Parthenon on the Acropolis in Greece and Athens. And we saw a pediment in Etruscan architecture. We saw a pediment, and we saw a pediment in Roman, like the Pantheon. But here it's broken. So that is specifically a Roman trait. Then we have a tholos, which is kind of like a round temple. So that is also a Roman trait. Again, here we have a whole pediment. So this is Greek. Corinthian columns, right? They kind of flare out. You have a frieze. This whole strip here would be called a frieze. This strip here and over here would be called a frieze. And then you have steps that also lead up into this temple. All right, let's read this. I would write down the parts that are highlighted. The Treasury's facade, and by the way, the whole thing, about 25 meters by about 39 meters. So 25 meters is 82 feet tall by 130 feet wide, is what that translates to. The Treasury's facade most clearly embodies the Hellenistic style and reflects the influence of Alexandria, the greatest city in the Eastern Mediterranean at this time. Its architecture features a broken pediment and central tholos, a circular building, on the upper level. This architectural composition originated in Alexandria. Ornate, that means highly decorated, Corinthian columns are used throughout. Above the broken pediments, the bases of two obelisks. We saw an obelisk. It's a part of Egyptian architecture. Appear and stretch upwards into the rock. Oops, timeout. All right, so again, we're comparing this to the Parthenon, which is in Athens in Greece, and then the Pantheon, which is Rome, which is in Italy. But you can see similarities between the two, right? You have the pediments, you have round temple, you have columns. Actually, in the Pantheon, this is an obelisk that's out in front. And then the obelisks on the Treasury kind of come out of this part of the broken pediment on the left and on this part of the broken pediment on the right. A frieze is right along here on the Parthenon, and there would be sculptures on this. There was on the Parthenon. And then this is the frieze on the Pantheon. And then again, this is the frieze on the Treasury. All right, so this is College Board said about one of their questions. It said the cross-cultural fertilization that resulted from the Nabatean trade can be seen in the facade of the Treasury, which shows Hellenistic influences by combining several different traditional elements of Greek architecture, such as Corinthian columns, which can be identified by their acanthus leaf capitals. Also, there's also figural imagery carved into the facade. Ways that it's different though, the pediment, if you see the pediment here, it doesn't go all the way to the end where the last column, where the last columns are, right? And on the Pantheon, you see that pediment reaching the last column. Same thing with the Parthenon, that pediment reaches that last column. Also, the columns are not evenly spaced, right? There's more room here, less room here, more room here, less room, more room. So on the Pantheon and the Parthenon, they are evenly spaced. On the second level facade, between the broken pediments and the tholos, there are two niches, like recessed space, right? We don't see that in the Pantheon or the Parthenon. So those would be some differences that we're seeing here. All right, another work we can compare it to are the Bamiyan Buddhas, right? For several reasons. One, you can talk about the cultural exchange, about these both being along the Silk Road, and then they are both similar because of being carved in the sandstone cliff face. All right, that is all.